Cold steel pressed hard against his temple. Finn Riley didn't dare breathe, didn't dare move. The desert sun hammered down, reflecting blindingly off the barrel of the Colt Peacemaker, held inches from his face. Dust, thick and gritty, coated his tongue. This was it then, kneeling in the dirt, miles from anywhere, under the unforgiving gaze of Bart Corbin. The outlaw's grin was a yellow slash in his sunburnt face, savoring the power, the finality. He leaned closer, the stench of stale tobacco filling Finn's nostrils. Corbin's voice was a low growl. "Last chance, cowboy." But the vast, shimmering silence of the plains held more than just heat and dust. It held watchers. It held secrets. And Corbin, lost in his moment of cruel triumph, was about to learn that the hardest way possible, something unseen, was about to change everything. Finn Riley preferred the company of horses to men. On the Sterling Ranch, a lonely outpost clinging to the edge of Comanche territory, that preference was easy to maintain. He was the quiet hand, the one who fixed fences, gentled nervous colts, and kept his past locked tight behind watchful eyes. Most folks figured him for a drifter, carrying the kind of weariness that came from hard miles and unspoken sorrows. They weren't wrong, not entirely. His hands, calloused from labor, moved with a quiet efficiency that hinted at more than just ranch work. He mended leather, reset horseshoes, his movements economical, precise. But it was his eyes that truly set him apart. They missed nothing. Not the way a hawk circled differently when tracking prey versus just riding thermals. Not the faint, almost invisible scuff of a moccasin near the creek bed, too light for a settler's boot. He read the land like a book written in dust and wind, a nervous twitch of a prairie dog's tail, the sudden, unnatural silence of the birds just before dusk. This constant observation wasn't born of boredom. It was survival instinct, honed sharp in a life he fought daily to forget, a life where missing such details meant a shallow grave. He felt the tension coiled deep within him, the ghost of old reflexes warring with his desire for peace. He saw the way old man Sterling sometimes looked at him, a question in his aging eyes. But Sterling never asked, and Finn never offered. The ranch itself breathed this tension, starkly beautiful, with mesas rising like ancient sentinels against the endless sky. It was a land that demanded respect. Water was scarce, shade scarcer, and danger could ride in on any breeze. Raiding parties, driven by hunger or vengeance, were a known hazard in these borderlands. Sometimes Finn found signs. An arrowhead of unfamiliar flint, a small, deliberate stack of stones on a boundary marker, a message not meant for him, but noted nonetheless. He glimpsed riders, too, distant figures moving with the fluid grace of those born to this terrain, melting into the heat haze before he could get a clear look. He knew of the whispers about Naya, the Comanche hunter whose skill was legend, whose presence guarded these lands fiercely. He sometimes wondered if the signs were hers, ephemeral traces left by a spirit of the plains. His days followed a rhythm. Men tend watch, stay quiet, until the rhythm was broken by the drumming hoofbeats of riders approaching too fast, too hard. 3 men pulled their lathered horses up short before the ranch house, dust swirling around them. The leader swung down, arrogance in every line of his body. Bart Corbin. Finn knew the name, whispered in saloons alongside tales of robbery and bloodshed. The scar above Corbin's eye puckered as he surveyed the modest spread, his gaze sharp and predatory. He took in the horses, the barn, then settled on Finn, who stood frozen near the corral, a curry comb loose in his hand. Corbin didn't waste time on pleasantries. His voice, rough as gravel, cut through the quiet air. "Is this the Sterling place?" Finn gave a slow nod, keeping his hands visible, deliberately non-threatening. Behind Corbin, his 2 men dismounted, Pike, burly and mean-eyed, and Caleb, younger, visibly nervous, his hand twitching near his gun belt. Wolves assessing a lone sheepfold. "Heard tell old man Sterling might have found something valuable out here," Corbin said, walking towards Finn, closing the distance, invading his space. Maybe a hidden spring, or something yellower, richer. He stopped inches away, his eyes boring into Finn's. "You his hired hand?" Another nod. Corbin scoffed. "Don't look like much." He spat tobacco juice, deliberately close to Finn's boot. "Where's the old man?" "Town," Finn replied, his voice carefully level. "Supplies." It was the truth. Sterling was 2 days gone. Corbin's eyes narrowed. "Convenient. Leaves you all alone out here." He glanced around, contempt clear on his face. "Seems mighty quiet." "Lonely. We'll be resting our horses," Corbin declared, making it an order, and taking a look around. "Don't you go getting twitchy now, ranch hand." His tone held a clear promise of violence if Finn caused trouble. The quiet Finn had cultivated felt suddenly fragile, thin ice under Corbin's heavy boot. The knot of dread in his gut tightened. This wasn't just a stop for water. This was an invasion. Corbin and his men settled in like ticks on a dog. They commandeered the shade, drank greedily from the trough, their eyes constantly assessing, calculating. Pike, sullen and brutish, barged into Finn's small bunkhouse, rummaging through his meager possessions, kicking aside a worn pair of boots with disdain. Caleb, jumpy as a rabbit, paced near the corral fence, his gaze flicking constantly towards the vast, empty horizon, as if expecting attack from the air itself. Corbin lounged against a fence post, idly cleaning his fingernails with a large Bowie knife, radiating impatient menace. Finn forced himself to continue his work. He moved to the barn, ostensibly to check feed supplies, his movements measured, calm. He needed them to underestimate him. Inside, he quickly relocated the spare rifle Sterling kept, hiding it deep within a sack of oats in the shadowed loft. He checked the loose floorboard in the main house later, ensuring the small pouch of emergency coins was still securely hidden. Small acts of defiance disguised as routine. He knew challenging them directly was suicide. His only hope lay in appearing completely insignificant, harmless. Wait them out. Let their greed find no purchase here. But the coiled tension inside him vibrated with readiness. The instincts he tried to suppress screamed warnings. He watched Corbin's hands, the way Pike shifted his weight, the nervous sweat beading on Caleb's upper lip. He forced his breathing to remain even, kept his expression blank. His quietness was a shield, but also a listening post. He registered everything, and the land registered Corbin's presence too. Later that day, near the creek, Finn saw it, a single hawk feather, carefully placed under a specific streamside rock, a tiny turquoise bead tied near its quill. Not random. A marker, placed since Corbin's arrival. He felt a prickle on his neck, the distinct sensation of being watched, but not by the outlaws. Pike was noisily sharpening his knife near the bunkhouse. Caleb was tending the horses with clumsy inefficiency. Corbin was still prowling around the main house. Someone else was out there, observing. Then, near sundown, as Finn repaired a section of fence near the northern boundary, he heard it, the sharp, distinct call of a canyon wren, but repeated 3 times, slightly off-key. A signal. He scanned the ridges, the shadowed folds of the hills. Nothing. Yet the feeling intensified. Naya. Was she tracking these men? Had Corbin's gang trespassed, stolen, desecrated something important to her people? The thought sent a complex current through him. Danger compounding danger. Yet a faint, unexpected shift in the balance. Perhaps Corbin wasn't the only predator hunting on this land today. The air grew thick with unspoken threats, seen and unseen. Corbin's arrival hadn't just disturbed Finn. It had stirred something ancient and watchful in the hills. 2 days under Corbin's thumb felt like 2 years. He tore through Sterling's modest belongings, finding nothing. He grilled Finn relentlessly about hidden water sources, secret trails, old caches. Finn offered nothing but simple truths and quiet denials. Corbin's frustration festered, turning toxic. He couldn't accept that this desolate ranch held no easy prize. His greed wouldn't allow it. He convinced himself the quiet ranch hand was the key, that Finn knew something, hiding it behind that blank stare. The breaking point came swiftly, violently. The third morning dawned clear and hot. Corbin stalked out of the main house, his face dark with rage. Pike and Caleb snapped to attention like wary dogs. Corbin pointed a shaking finger at Finn, who was checking a horseshoe near the barn. "Enough of this game," he snarled. You know where the water is. That hidden spring folks whisper about. You're gonna show me." Finn straightened, slowly meeting the outlaw's furious gaze. "There's no spring," he stated flatly. "Just the creek and the well." "Liar." Corbin lunged, shoving Finn hard against the horse. The animal whinnied, startled. "I heard different. Heard Sterling found a seep up in them hills. And you're gonna take me right to it." Finn's jaw tightened. "Telling you, there's nothing." Corbin cut him off with a dismissive wave. "Pike, Caleb, stay put. Watch the place." He grabbed Finn's arm, his fingers digging into muscle like talons. "You and me, ranch hand, we're going for a walk." He frog-marched Finn away from the relative safety of the ranch buildings, heading north into the broken, rock-strewn country. The sun climbed relentlessly, baking the earth, reflecting off the stones with painful intensity. Corbin pushed him hard, jabbing him occasionally with his pistol barrel, convinced Finn's silence was defiance hiding knowledge. Finn conserved his energy, his mind racing, assessing the terrain, searching for any advantage, any escape route. But Corbin was alert, fueled by frustrated greed and the pleasure of dominance. Miles crawled by. The landscape grew harsher, more desolate. Finally, in a wide, shallow arroyo exposed to the full fury of the sun, Corbin decided he'd had enough. He shoved Finn violently forward, sending him sprawling onto his knees in the hot gravel. "All right," Corbin growled, drawing his Colt Peacemaker. The metallic click of the hammer being cocked was terrifyingly loud in the sudden stillness. "We stop here. Tell me where that spring is, or tell the buzzards when they come pick your bones." He aimed the gun directly at Finn's head, the dark muzzle unwavering. Finn looked up, past the gun, into Corbin's eyes. He saw no room for negotiation, only a cold certainty that violence held all the answers. Far back towards the ranch, Pike and Caleb were distant specks. No help there. He was alone. He closed his eyes for a heartbeat, the primal urge to fight, to move, almost overwhelming. But he was kneeling, helpless. The heat pulsed. High above, a lone hawk circled. Corbin's finger tightened on the trigger. His lips curled back in a sneer. "Last chance, cowboy." A sound split the air, sharp, decisive. Not the expected roar of Corbin's gun, but a sudden thwack. An arrow slammed into the dirt right beside Corbin's gun hand, shaft quivering, feathers bright against the brown earth. Corbin froze, shock momentarily erasing the cruelty from his face. His head snapped up, eyes wide, scanning the rocky rim of the arroyo. Finn's heart leaped. He followed Corbin's frantic gaze. And there she was, standing on a weathered outcrop, perhaps 30 yards distant, etched against the piercing blue sky. A Comanche woman, Naya. She held a short, powerful bow, a second arrow already knocked, drawn back smoothly, its point aimed squarely at Corbin's chest. Dressed in practical buckskins, her dark hair braided, her face set in lines of intense concentration, she was the embodiment of the land's fierce spirit. No hesitation, no fear, only deadly focus. Corbin choked out a curse, instinctively trying to swing his pistol towards this new, unexpected threat. But Naya's voice cut through the tension, speaking sharp Comanche words that needed no translation. The message was clear. Move and die. Corbin hesitated, trapped. The kneeling cowboy below, the lethal archer above. Why now? Why here? Then Finn understood. The feather, the bird call. Naya hadn't stumbled upon them. She had hunted them. Naya spoke again, her English broken but fiercely clear, her gaze locked on Corbin. Bart Corbin, your men steal horses, burn sacred ground. Her voice was low, laced with ice and fire. My people remember. I remember. Corbin's past had finally caught up to him, materialized as an avenging warrior aiming an arrow at his black heart. Finn, still on his knees, felt a surge of raw adrenaline. The game had changed. The desert wasn't just watching anymore. It was striking back. Cornered and wounded by the accusation as much as the arrow, Corbin reacted with pure, feral rage. He snarled, shoving Finn violently aside as he scrambled for the scant cover offered by a cluster of low rocks, simultaneously trying to bring his Colt back into play despite the searing pain in his hand. Naya moved faster than thought. Another arrow blurred through the air, striking Corbin's gun hand with brutal force. The impact tore the peacemaker from his grasp, sending it spinning into the dust. Corbin screamed, a raw sound of pain and fury, clutching his mangled hand. Miles back, Pike and Caleb saw the commotion. They spurred their horses, charging towards the arroyo, weapons drawn. Pike leveled his shotgun from horseback. Caleb awkwardly aimed his mismatched revolvers. Naya flowed like water. Draw loose. An arrow took Pike's horse in the foreleg. The animal shrieked, stumbled, and fell heavily, throwing Pike hard. His shotgun skittered across the gravel. Before Caleb could even fire a wild shot, Naya's fourth arrow found its mark, sinking deep into his right shoulder. He cried out, dropping his pistol, his arm instantly useless as he fought to control his terrified mount. In seconds, Corbin's backup was neutralized. Swift, precise, deadly. Now it was just Corbin and Finn, with Naya holding the high ground, her bow a constant threat. Seeing his chance in the chaos, Finn exploded upwards from his knees. He didn't waste time scrambling for Corbin's fallen gun. Instead, he launched himself at the outlaw, driving his shoulder hard into Corbin's midsection. They hit the ground together, a tangle of desperate limbs. Corbin, though injured, fought with the strength of panic, flailing, trying to reach the Bowie knife, still sheathed at his belt. Finn grappled, blocked, dodged. Dust filled his lungs. Gravel scraped his skin raw. He heard Naya shouting from the ridge, commands, warnings. He couldn't tell, her voice cutting through the sounds of the struggle. Finn landed a solid right hook to Corbin's jaw, snapping his head back. Corbin countered with a vicious knee strike that Finn barely deflected. They rolled, kicking, gouging. Corbin's hand finally closed around the hilt of his knife. The blade flashed, slicing through Finn's shirt sleeve, missing his arm by a hair's breadth. Finn knew he couldn't keep this up. He needed an equalizer. Just as Corbin raised the knife again, his face contorted in a mask of hate, another arrow struck. This one buried itself deep in Corbin's thigh. A calculated shot from Naya, crippling, not killing. Corbin screamed, his leg collapsing, the knife tumbling from his suddenly weak fingers. Finn didn't pause. He lunged, snatching up the heavy Bowie knife. He kicked Corbin's wounded leg, hard, drawing another agonized howl, then pressed the cold, flat side of the blade against the outlaw's throat. Corbin went utterly still, his eyes wide with terror, pain, and the dawning realization of absolute defeat. His breath hitched in ragged gasps. Blood darkened his hand, seeped through his trousers. The fight was over. Silence returned to the arroyo, thick and heavy, punctuated only by Corbin's labored breathing and Pike's pained groans from where he lay near his downed horse. Finn held the knife steady, his own breath coming in ragged bursts. He looked up at Naya. She slowly lowered her bow, her dark eyes meeting his across the distance. An understanding passed between them, silent and profound. Shared danger, unexpected alliance, survival. Naya shifted her focus to the defeated outlaws. She spoke again in Comanche, her tone clipped, final. Then, with deliberate grace, she descended the slope into the arroyo floor. She moved past Finn, her attention fixed on Corbin and his men. She went to Pike first, efficiently disarming him of any hidden weapons, using his own bandana to crudely bind his bleeding shoulder. Practical, not merciful. She did the same for Caleb, retrieving his fallen pistol, securing his wound, and motioning curtly for him to dismount. He obeyed quickly, his face pale with fear. Finally, she stood over Corbin. She kicked his lost Colt further away with the toe of her moccasin. She took the Bowie knife from Finn's unresisting hand. Using Finn's discarded bandana, she bound Corbin's bleeding hand tightly, then used leather thongs from her pouch to secure his wrists firmly behind his back, followed by his ankles. She searched him methodically, finding a small, beaded pouch tucked inside his vest, likely Comanche craft, stolen property. She took it, her expression grimly satisfied. She repeated the binding process with Pike and Caleb, leaving all three men disarmed, immobilized, and utterly defeated. She checked Pike's injured horse, then gathered the reins of the outlaw's mounts along with her own pony, hidden nearby. She paused before mounting, looking back at Finn, then at the trussed-up men helpless in the dirt. "Justice has many faces," she said, her English still accented but clear. "The desert remembers." Then, swinging onto her pony, leading the captured horses, she turned and rode away, vanishing back into the heat haze and the vast indifference of the landscape as silently as she had appeared. What fate awaited Corbin and his men, a distant marshal, thirst, predators, was left to the judgment of the wilderness. Finn stood alone in the suddenly quiet arroyo. The adrenaline drained away, leaving behind a bone-deep weariness and the sting of scrapes and bruises. He picked up his hat, slapped the dust from it, and looked at the rip in his shirt sleeve. He gazed for a long moment in the direction Naya had disappeared, then turned and began the long, slow walk back towards the Sterling ranch. The sun beat down, but it felt different now, less oppressive. The silence felt less empty. He reached the ranch hours later. It was blessedly undisturbed. He drew water from the well, the cool liquid soothing his raw throat. He tended his minor injuries. The familiar quiet settled around him, but it wasn't the same. The encounter had irrevocably changed something within him, cracking the peaceful facade he'd so carefully constructed, reminding him of the violence he could never truly escape. But it had also shown him something else, that even in this harsh, unforgiving land, help could come from unexpected quarters. Strength could lie hidden in silence, and alliances could be forged without words. He never saw Naya again, but sometimes, working the fence line near the northern boundary, he'd find a single, perfectly placed hawk feather tied with a tiny turquoise bead, a silent acknowledgement, a shared secret held by the vast, watchful desert. Finn remained at the Sterling ranch, the quiet cowboy, but the quietness now held a different quality, a deeper resonance. His eyes, forever watchful, now held the memory of the outlaw, the arrow, and the fierce Comanche warrior who had delivered the desert's unforgiving justice.